Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, where we dive into strategies that drive real business growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and this episode is The Evolution of Influencer Marketing from PR to Revenue Driver. I'm joined by Danielle Wiley, CEO and founder of Sway Group. Danielle and I discuss the transformation of influencer marketing from its PR roots to a powerful revenue-generated tool. You'll hear how influencer strategies have evolved, how to move influencers down the funnel to impact conversions, and how even small businesses can leverage hyper-local influencers for big results. So if you're an executive looking to boost revenue, you don't want to miss Danielle's expert insights on maximizing influencer impact and ROI. And welcome, Danielle. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background in Sway.
I am Danielle Wiley. I am the CEO and founder of Sway Group. I founded it 13 years ago, following a long career in both interactive and PR. Started doing influencer work over 20 years ago and was at Edelman and seeing it grow and also seeing just how messy and complicated it was. And really just kind of Sway Group was kind of born from my own frustration of wanting to pick up the phone and just say to someone like, here's what I want. Here's my budget. Make it happen. Thank you. Goodbye. And there was no one that could. There were a few folks kind of saying that they could do that, but no one doing it well. And so I eventually got frustrated enough that I jumped off and did it on my own.
Well, the perfect way to get started, right? You have a problem that needs to be solved. So, no, great. And so you've seen the industry evolve and it continues to evolve. So talk a bit kind of how you've seen that evolution over time, starting more as a PR strategy.
Yeah, so it did start. I mean, not only did my career with influencer start in PR, but really influencer as a whole started in PR. Initially, influencers, and then they were really just called mom bloggers, but they were treated like journalists, and we would send them samples of products and they would be psyched to receive product and they would write about it. And it was all very, very easy. And then everyone kind of came to the realization that, you know what, for the most part, influencers aren't journalists. They're kind of more like spokespeople. Yeah. And if you actually pay them as spokespeople, you can share your key messages with them and let them know what your goals are. And they can actually do some really great sponsored content for you. And it's a much different type of relationship, but that's when things kind of really gelled and really clicked. And so that's how it all started. And of course, since then, so much has changed. I mean, technology has changed tremendously. The number of platforms has grown exponentially. And then I think there's also been this influencer marketing kind of really started off very much top of funnel, all about reach and awareness. And I would argue that that is still where it is at its strongest. But because D2C is so huge now, because we do have the ability to measure conversion in a way that we never did, there's definitely this desire to move influencer further down the funnel. And while it's possible, it's not possible in every program. It's not possible with every influencer, and it's tricky.
Right. No, I definitely agree with you. And I always think about my own, my focus group of one, of how much I rely on influencers, whether it's more from a content perspective or the affiliate-based influencers that really inform my knowledge and my shopping behavior. Sometimes a little bit too much. But yeah, and I think, when we did some original research last year, and we found that influencers and social platforms were the top source of inspiration for customers or just shoppers looking for what to buy, whether they're in market or passively just becoming in market. But so we've definitely seen that. And so talk a bit about kind of how you approach the influencer strategies for your clients and kind of, what you look at for making sure you're making the right fit.
Yeah, we ask a lot of questions. Every program that we do starts off with a strategic brief that is incredibly comprehensive. And we really use this as a blueprint for the whole program. So it's very
Yeah.
important. And through 13 years of trial and error and just seeing everything that can happen, we kind of err on the side of too much information.
Yeah.
So, what don't you want people to say? What do you want your creators to say? Listing out key messages, showing examples of content that have the same vibe that you're going
Right.
for,
Yeah.
looking at recruitment. Who do you want to pull in for this campaign? Even kind of higher up than that is, what's your key KPI? So is this just about awareness and reach? Are you actually trying to drive conversions? Do we need to get people to click over to your site and eventually buy something or download something? The size of influencer we use, the platforms we choose to use, all of that all ladders up to that KPI.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I love how you do have such a comprehensive strategic approach, because we're hearing a lot about agencies today just saying, okay, we do influencer now. We partner with a tech platform, so now we have this offering, or we're a PR firm and we realize, oh, we need to add this. So, it's it's important, I think, as you're pointing out, that there's so many layers and specifics to it that you can't just go in one day and turn on an influencer program. And you talked about, you build the relationships with the influencers over time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk to anyone doing influencer marketing, really one of the hardest pieces of it is the discovery, is finding those influencers.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that list, reaching out, getting them to respond. When we're really lucky, we have a network of 50,000 creators. So for the vast majority of our programs, we are able to just send a recruitment out to our network, and folks apply, and we can just pick the ones who are the best fit. That's ideal. And it's such a luxury to have that pool of
Mm-hmm.
creators at our disposal. But there are always going to be programs that need someone who's outside of that box. We had a client last year who wanted professional bowlers.
Wow.
We've had clients, we're working with a client now in the Pacific Northwest, and they want people who live in certain communities to talk about this lumber company and some of the environmental issues and how they're tackling them. That's very, very specific. And
Mm-hmm.
to think, you're not going to find that in our network of 50,000.
Right.
So we have to
Yeah.
go out and hand find them. And even
Mm-hmm.
for us, we've been in the industry for 13 years. You Google us, we're legit. Even for us, the percentage of creators who get back to us, it's very, very small. So
Yeah.
doing that discovery is incredibly difficult. So it's very hard for folks to just jump in
Yeah.
and do it.
Well, in that example, that client example just shows how vast the opportunities are for influencer marketing, that it can be used for so many different types of businesses and awareness driving as well. So I love that. I hope you found your logger influencers in the
We
Pacific
did.
Northwest.
They're creating their content now, and the hyper local stuff is really exciting.
Yeah.
We're working
Hmm.
with a very, very popular pizza restaurant in Chicago and doing that lumber campaign. We've done store openings and zip codes with very small populations. I don't know, but maybe it's not the sexiest side of influencer marketing, but I
Hmm.
feel like because of the size and scope of our network, and because we have so many processes in place, we're uniquely positioned to be able to tackle those types of programs. And
Yep.
just kind of I like the fact that smaller, more local companies can now dip their toes into influencer marketing. I think it
Yeah.
has felt like something that just those big companies can do,
Hmm.
but in reality, it's incredibly effective content, and there's no
It is.
reason that companies of all sizes can't be taking advantage of it.
Right. Well, and it's I love that too, because to your point, like it's not just a media or a strategy for the big budgets. Like there are ways to do it, and especially in the local level. What's interesting too is that so many shoppers report that they are do make decisions based on recommendations, and you build, I know I've done this too, you're like, you build this relationship with your influencer. Okay, it's really one way. Like I think Mindy Kaling and I are best friends because I follow her on Instagram. But the point is that like you build this affinity for the creators and the influencers so that their followers you know trust their recommendations. They feel
Yeah,
like they know them and they're getting something personal. But then they also have things in common, or things they admire about them, that is why they follow them. And
yeah,
so, with
absolutely.
that, yeah, and I know you've some of the best practices around creator content that often don't always align is letting the creators create. So, talk a bit about how you kind of pass over the important details, but really give them the reins.
Yeah. So I almost think of it like a creative writing class. So we share
Mhm.
what the key messages are. We always share what the client is hoping to achieve because creators are business people just like anyone else. And it's really important for
Mhm.
them to understand, like, what's the end goal here?
Yeah.
What am I being hired to actually do?
Mhm.
Um, and then we'll give prompts that are kind of, like I said, like a creative writing class. So it's not say exactly this and use all of
Right.
these words. It's not a script. It's some kind of prompt that lets them run with the story and talk about that product in a way that feels organic to who they are and fits
Mhm.
in with it. I give the example sometimes, like we working with like training pant diapers.
Oh, mhm.
You can just say, like, tell us like your funniest potty training story. Every single parenting influencer is going to
Yeah.
have a completely different take on that. It's going to
Yeah.
absolutely feel organic to them, and that's a great prompt because it leads to humor and something that's personal, and it ties it in with stuff that they've probably been talking about already. So that's what we
Mhm.
try to do. And you're always going to run into clients who want to be a bit more prescriptive, and there's a lot of back and forth that we
Mhm.
do. And that's one of the nice things for creators who do work through an agency like us, is we kind of take on some of those more difficult
Mhm.
discussions.
Mhm.
I'm sure, we sometimes do have to request some edits and
Yeah.
tweaks, but
Mhm.
often they're a lot less than what was requested initially by the
Yeah.
clients.
This podcast is brought to you by Break Room Labs. Break Room Lab gummies for energy and focus feature an optimized blend of low caffeine, vitamin B12, and nootropics to refresh your mind and body in as little as 5 minutes. Low sugar, tasty, and convenient. Get 20% off when you visit breakroomlabs.com.
And so we've talked a bit about kind of measurement or goals of different creator campaigns. What are some of the measurements that you put into place to help kind of just consider the success of a campaign?
Yeah, we use a platform. So we use Creator IQ. We get
Mhm.
our metrics. We pull them in directly from the APIs of the various platforms. So it's first party data, which is terrific.
Yeah.
And we have access to a lot of really interesting metrics. Of course, there's all the like typical ones that we've all
Mhm.
heard of. So impressions and engagements and clicks. Some of the more interesting ones, it depends on the type of campaign. If we're doing a campaign for a food product and a
Mhm.
creator is sharing a recipe, I'm looking to see how many saves we got, because that indicates that consumers
Mhm.
are saving that recipe to make it another time, and they're going to pull it up and they're going to see that brand name and they're going to buy that specific brand of cherry tomato or cheese or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Shares are really, I think, where the industry is going. Looking at all of the updates that Meta is making, it's all about
Mhm.
shareable content. They've been totally expanding on their notes capability. Any piece of content that is getting shared around, that's incredibly, it's a terrific metric. And I think it's one of the most important ones out there, especially today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it ties to the data points of people share what they like, and people will be responsive to the recommendations that their friends or influencers are making. So that makes a lot of sense, and it does tie back to business metrics. So it makes for a solid measurement to the campaign success.
Yeah. And then we also, one other thing that we've been doing really in the past few years, we work with an outside research company to do brand lift studies, which is great. So you can, I mean, they're done like with all of the scientific rigor of an actual survey, and there's a control group and an exposed group, and the partner that we use kind of gamifies the survey. So you can get some of, Gen Z is more likely to participate because there's a lot of swiping and it's kind of fun. But that's really, really great to be able to show. Like that's a difficult metric to show that there's been some kind of brand lift or change in sentiment. So it's terrific to be able to have that data.
No, that's, I love that aspect of your measurement strategy, because we keep looking at awareness building initiatives and kind of how to, your customers have to know you, and then they have to like you. And it's some of those investments to get the message and unique attributes out there are a bit squishier and less of a direct response. So having that brand lift study included is, sounds like a real measurable outcome for the campaigns.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and so tell us a bit about like some of the more exciting or unique, you mentioned the logging, any other fun stories from your partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, they're one of my favorite stories. We were doing a program a couple of years ago for power tools, and we had to use contractors who were on Instagram. And I will say that I think that was actually pre-COVID. So now, like 5 years later, there's lots of contractors on Instagram, and that's kind of a thing, and it's growing. Back then, it wasn't. And we found this contractor who happened to have an Instagram and was a great fit. And we always ask our creators to send us a draft of their caption for their video ahead of time, so we can make sure everything's spelled correctly and just make sure we're all aligned. And the contractor sent it to us. He wrote it on a legal pad and sent us a photo of it. And it was the cutest. So cute. It's still one of my favorite stories. I mean, at the end of the day, it worked, but not what we were used to getting, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you could use that as the creative image as well, instead of typing it in. No, that's great. And so any other any watch outs for clients or brands that are, working or looking to get into influencer and creator strategies?
Yeah, I think it's important to, if you're going to be using an agency, just to vet them really, really well. Make sure there are so many pieces and parts to influencer marketing. Yeah. We have people who specialize in all of the areas. The person who's amazing at account management is likely not the best person to be QAing content or be doing the metrics or be negotiating with the creators. Those are all like very specific jobs. So I think really vet the staff of the agency, make sure it's not just one person using a platform, make sure that there are experts along every single step in the process. And then I think also try to vet their technology, find out what platform that they're using, how long has that platform existed, how is it getting its data. There are still so many platforms out there who are scraping data instead of using API access, which is super inaccurate, and it's kind of crazy to me. And then I think just make sure that all of the technology kind of stacks up and that you have everything you need. We vetted a platform a few months ago, and they didn't have the ability to roll up paid amplification, like the boosting. So and with the platform that we use, we're able to, our creators authorize us to run paid on their behalf. And so we can see all of the content for a particular campaign from all of the different creators all in one spot and be able to run that paid in a way that maximizes, like, this one's working great for clicks and this piece of content is working great for reach. And we can kind of pull all those levers. If you don't have that paid amplification integration, you're going into each creator's account one at a time. They have to authorize you separately. And it's kind of messy. It's not ideal. It's such a weird peculiarity, but I think it's a really good example of how this the technology that your agency is using might not be doing everything that it can be doing, which is going to end up costing the brand more money at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's really great advice and lots of good. Overall, Danielle, it's clear why you and Soy Group have been so successful, because you are an OG in the space and have so much knowledge. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And you want to give a shout out for your own podcast as well?
Yeah, we have a podcast. It's on a little bit of a summer break, but hopefully we'll be back by the time this comes out. It's called The Art of Sway, and you can find it on any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Danielle, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. For more help with your business growth strategies, visit revenuebasedmarketing.com. Stay with us for the next one, The Power of Authenticity, Unlocking Business Growth Through Trust and Transparency. And be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more strategies to skyrocket your company growth.